Hey, we are live. We are live.
We are
Welcome
live.
to episode
Nine
of Live Lunch with our director, Megan Laramie, Nicholas, and Joel Virgo, who leads Emmanuel Church in Brighton.
And Yohaan Philip.
Who has a very cool hat.
He has a cool hat. Tell us about your hat.
My wife made me this hat.
She made your hat.
Yeah.
Come on.
So she runs her own knitting business. Took me about like 5 years to get this hat made. For all the multitude of knitting products that she's produced over the 3 years.
Right.
5 years to get this hat made.
So she got round to making it after not
She didn't take
because
5 years.
the thing itself took 5 years.
No.
She didn't have to get the fleece off the sheep of the magical. It wasn't like something from ancient Greece or something. It's like because that's the sort of
The
thing.
magic
isn't it?
fleece.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Magic fleece. That's what I was
Jason.
thinking.
Is it
Something
Jason?
in my head.
No, Jason
just-
and the magic fleece.
Anyway,
It's
5
the
years.
wings. Jason and the Argonauts.
That's it.
Um,
Well done for Amy for making them. It's a superb hat.
It is.
It is. And it is magical in a sense.
It makes me look good.
It does. It's
Magic
magical.
touch.
Well done.
Right, let's get on with the show.
Yeah.
Last Sunday we finished our Thrive series.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the Thrive series. Really enjoyed them. I feel like starting the Thrive at the beginning of the year 2019 is with that teaching series is brilliant to kickstart how you can shape your year, and just some of the bits that I got in there were brilliant. Should we jump into the preach? Or is there any other bits that you want us to quickly touch on before we get to the preach?
No, I wondered if there's anything else from our week that you want to talk about, but that's fine. If you want,
Is there something that happened in your week that you want to talk about?
it's okay. We'll
Manchester United beat Arsenal 3-1.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
That
maybe.
was one of my highlights of the week.
maybe I should just hurry us on
Smashed
to
the
Sunday.
Arsenal at Emirates 3-1. It was an epic game.
Yeah.
I haven't mentioned this to David Brading so far, but now I
haven't?
can publicly
Okay.
on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube
Well,
mock the team that he supports. 3-1 at the
how long have you
Emirates.
been a supporter of Manchester United, Johan?
For as long as I can remember. See, I didn't grow up in this country, so I'm allowed to choose Manchester United.
That's not how it works.
But that was my week.
Like the rest of the world who
That's
support Man United, who've never been anywhere near Manchester
That's
and
my
never
week.
would if they had the chance.
I have actually been to Manchester and I really liked it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I've been to the Emirates Stadium.
I used to support Liverpool when I was a kid, and I think I saw Liverpool once from North Wales.
Yeah.
I just saw it, and that was it. That was as close as I ever got.
Wow.
So I can't I can't pretend to be any better, but I don't support Liverpool anymore.
You support Brighton. Yeah, great.
I was Aston Villa.
Aston Villa?
Yeah, I went to all their games.
Really?
Right.
Wow.
Okay. So you actually were a supporter.
Proper supporter.
Well
Well, I
done.
went for the food that my dad got me before,
Excellent.
and then slept through the match. It was great.
Talking about food, where is
That's great. It reminds me of
we
my
haven't had any food. That's why I feel like that's why there's such an awkward start to the
Feel
show.
the
because
need for
there is
something.
no food.
Yeah. I did support Brighton from the start as a kid, but lost my heart when it came to Brighton when they were beaten by Manchester United 4-0 in the FA Cup replay when I was a child. So that was why I turned my attention elsewhere. But anyway, we're back now.
We are back. That was my highlight of the week.
Good.
Just to say it
Good for
again,
you.
Manchester United beating Arsenal 3-1 was one of the
Yeah,
highlights of my
okay,
week.
fair enough.
What has been your highlight of the week?
I could name a few, but it's fine. We can move on. We could ignore the pieces that you've got written there and
Yeah.
just move on. It's fine.
Just realised that you did ask you to touch upon
So
some
is
things.
there any? So there's no plan for food. So I'm just going to sit here and die.
I
without
hope
calories.
it appears soon
It's
because
fine. It's all good.
I'm hungry.
We'll survive.
We will survive.
Yeah.
There's no coffee either, so it's all just going.
Oh, noise.
Oh,
We hear footsteps.
Yeah.
we are running up the stairs. That's the kind of attitude we appreciate.
No. Yeah. Got so close to the door. And if that's a bitter blow, isn't it?
Have
when
you
it comes
have you
that
watched
close?
anything good recently?
Well, last week before I did watch Baby Driver, which I thought was quite a good film.
It's a good film.
Which is the first time I've seen it, and it was one of those movies that just that you hear raving about, and I thought it was good. I'm trying to think of a significant spiritual piece of interpretation I can bring to it, because that's what you're supposed to do, isn't it, on these kinds of podcasts? But I could only say that I thought it was cool. It had a good soundtrack,
Very good soundtrack.
and it had some brilliant acting, and I thought it was cool. Who was in it again? Who was? Oh, it had Kevin Spacey, who you're not allowed to have in films anymore, but he was some brilliant people in it. Anyway, it was very good.
Great film. Megan, have you had any highlights of your week?
happened last week? I don't know.
Oh, I tell you what. Who's been watching Les Miserables?
That's what I was hoping you'd get to because that's
Yeah.
like top of my, list.
Have you been watching
No,
this?
I've been watching Luther, but I've just finished it, so Les Mis is
Okay.
next on my list.
Oh man,
I
yeah.
have a request.
Ooh.
Someone wants Joel to try on your glasses.
Now that I'm taking off my glasses.
So,
can have my hat.
someone has told us we can't.
Yeah.
So on top of my hat or
yeah,
instead?
that's the one.
Okay, let's do
Well, let
this.
me wear your
So
hat.
Les Miserables is can I not take your glasses on? Is that offensive?
I can't see them. I feel vulnerable without being able to see.
That
Yeah.
might be the whole point. So we're doing this. Cool. That's
This
fine.
is a really interesting look.
Yeah, I like it.
Who was that?
Legacy Eclat.
Hello,
Mysterious.
Legacy.
Oh, thanks,
Oh.
Legacy.
Hello,
Yes.
the lovely Eloise, who
Thanks,
manages
Ellie.
our cafe downstairs
Come on.
and has food.
What is the surprise? Okay.
Okay.
Oh man. Okay, stepping up.
These are chicken wings from Lost Boys, and they are based in the Joker in Brighton.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Chicken
Celery.
wings
Here
and
goes.
curly fries.
Oh my word. Okay, serious. Dig in, please, everybody. Adam, have some.
Oh, you know, you're vegan. I apologize.
Don't know.
Uh,
Is that a yes or a no for spice?
these wings are amazing.
So, Les Miserables.
Wings.
Right, it's been. I don't know what you guys have thought of it, if you've been watching it on TV, but so it's quite a story. It really is one of those extraordinary stories. And obviously, if you know it as a musical, you're going to have the weird experience of kind of waiting for them to start singing every minute. But the actual story itself, the drama of it, and the way it combines kind of big, epic, revolutionary events with real human interest, real pain and joys and I think the beauties of life and it's quite a film. It's quite a story. I've enjoyed it. It's been some flaws to it, but I think I've overall thought it's been very good.
I think you should do a YouTube channel where you review stuff.
Tell you what, the thing about it is that Les Miserables it really is an extraordinary story about grace and the difference between grace and law. There's a character who represents the law and a character who represents grace. It's almost as simple as that. Mm-hmm. And it's fascinating to see the two things kind of interplay. And one character who's the guy who's Javert, who's the kind of policeman who represents the power of the law and kind of relentless accusation. Mm-hmm. He's a bit like Jonah in the Bible, I find. Very similar kind of character. And that kind of, if you watch the last episode next week, you'll discover how similar he is. It's fascinating. Anyway,
Wow.
There you go. A few things.
Have you tried a wing?
No, I have not.
Oh, these are so
I don't
good.
trust myself. If I pick up that in front of a camera,
I mean,
bad
it's pretty,
enough.
like,
I make a revolting sight
messy.
of myself, even on my own, if I eat things like that.
And
So-
for us with beards, eating
it's
wings
just not a
is
pretty
not
sight.
very
So
attractive, is
It
it?
doesn't mean they're not going to be eaten.
Oh,
We will have those, but not with the
they
world
just look
watching.
amazing. And they taste amazing as well, which is brilliant.
And these fries are good.
So this Sunday we looked at Legacy
Yeah.
from the parable of the talents.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do your 30-second summary of the preach?
I thought that the parable of the talents was an opportunity to look at why would one of these servants. So it's about this master with 3 servants. And he gives them each a huge amount of money for investment to see what they will do with it. When he comes back, he finds that 2 of the servants have been very enterprising and made a lot back. The 3rd servant has buried it. And it's such a fascinating story because it rather than him being the one who was considered neutral because he thinks, oh, I've been safe with it, I didn't waste it, I didn't lose it, but actually the evaluation is you did the wrong thing, you didn't make a return on it, you didn't invest it, you wasted it. In reality you did waste it because it wasn't meant to be buried. Anyway, we talked about why he would do that. Why is it that people do effectively waste the opportunities of life? What's at the heart of that decision? Why do people do that?
I remember a few years ago, I was listening to a series of lectures on the famous book, the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, Gibbon's, and the lecturer was comparing the two cultural heavyweights around the time, which was the Greek culture and sorry, may not have been at the time, but at least in thinking around the time, and then you had Christianity, and how the Greeks were more about hero worshipping and about people striving for greatness and accomplishments and achievements, and you got Hercules and just the other. Hey, mate.
Simon,
I could smell them.
welcome.
And it's his birthday.
Yay!
No.
It's the birthday boy.
Hooray.
It's today, isn't it?
No, it's Friday.
Okay, good try.
Oh, wait. Hey, come join us if you want.
Mate, please, as a birthday gift, eat some chicken.
Thank you.
And so Greek culture being primarily around accomplishing much and achieving a lot, and this is the lecturer's view, and the contradiction was Christianity being all about humility and not really striving for excellence, but having your head low and humble service and not trying to accomplish greatness, and I guess no enterprise or anything like that. But it isn't really the view. That is the wrong view of Christianity, isn't it? I mean, of course, there is a view of Christianity which talks about humility and acknowledging that there is one great hero in the story, but there is a sense of, no, you can accomplish much with your life, and God rewards, and He honors accomplishment and enterprise and utilizing the gifts and the talents that He's given you to do well. And there almost seems to be an emphasis on being excellent and achieving greatness, I guess.
I think that's a curious caricature someone's managed to swallow, and then I don't know the lecture series we're talking about, but it maybe does kind of prevail a bit, that notion that the Christian faith encouraged a certain kind of, I guess people would maybe call it a pietism, where you're urged to live a kind of a very noble and virtuous, but ultimately unproductive life. It's virtuous to not try and change things, but to be kind of bourgeois and suburban and safe, and I guess maybe there are scriptures that emphasize, living a quiet life for peace and for well-being for everybody, and Paul talks about that to the Thessalonians, but it would be weird to take those verses and make that the kind of blanket prescription, as though, well, the Bible basically encourages us to be unambitious, because there's a reason Paul is saying that to that particular church, especially, and there is a virtue in living steadily and faithfully and in doing the ordinary stuff well, but it's not because God doesn't want us to have ambition and have achievement. The Bible starts with the human race being mandated with a glorious, massive calling. Hello and welcome.
Thank you, Eloise.
Yes.
Mohan says that when they discussed the message yesterday, someone said that the fear of failure might have been the reason for this.
Oh.
Sorry, Mohan said fear of failure.
It might have been the reason.
For the specific case of a person that does like the third servant person. Yeah, which I guess, I think fear is kind of at the heart of the failure, in the sense that it seems like the guys.
What is a lovely cup of coffee? Thank you, Eloise.
Yes, the fear that the.
That is excellent. She's achieved greatness in that cup of coffee.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You're particularly impressed.
I am very
invested
impressed.
her talents.
She has done well. That is 5 talent level.
Is it really?
Yeah.
And I got this one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, fine.
I got the
You
2
always-
talent. Or maybe the 1 talent.
Distracted.
No, to be fair, this may, for all I know, be better. You're a better judge than me.
1 talent.
It might be better. I'm not one of those people that can suddenly
Appreciate good coffee.
you can actually sense the beans and which part of the hill in Costa Rica they came from. Never been quite as good at that. But anyway, the point is that the true Christian message invites enterprise, and historically, the fact of the matter is it has done. So whoever told you this is who is this person? that did
He's
these
a lecturer.
lectures. Appalling. Bring them to me.
Oh.
I think the reality is that
Tim.
whenever the Christian message has really kind of bitten hard in the, kind of really dived into a culture, the reality is it's generally resulted in huge amounts of progress in industry and people talk about the Protestant work ethic and all kinds of social reforms as well, all kinds of massive enterprise that breaks out when the gospel gets into a culture, because people start thinking there's a God that gives purpose and meaning to every part of my life, not just what I do in my spiritual moments where I go to a temple and do a kind of a ritual, but my life gets to be a ritual of worship. Like when I'm filling my tax form in, or when I'm parking my car, or when I'm punching out, what I do all to the glory of God. So we can make life a context of worship. And when that happens, it usually results in progress.
I guess the thought is you spoke a lot about doing things faithfully and more being given to you, which again is
Excellent coffee,
biblical.
by the way.
So more will be given to you.
Yeah.
What would you say as an encouragement to people who are really working hard and putting in the effort, putting in the grit? It could be an entrepreneur, it could be people who serve in church, or people who are just faithfully and diligently doing what they do, and yet not seeing immediate reward of their labor. And saying, I'm investing, I'm not burying my talent in the ground. I believe God's given me 2 or 5 or whatever.
Yes.
I'm really investing in it, but I'm not seeing fruit. I'm not seeing it being multiplied into 10. I'm not seeing more being given unto me. I'm not really entering the joy of the Lord as this parable suggests. Is there any encouragement that you would give them?
Yeah, I'm sure there's loads, but let's ask Simon first.
I was literally thinking, don't ask me this one.
I'm going to finish my coffee just so.
When Simon would know, his talents are multiplying.
Some of them really definitely aren't. He says, well done, good and faithful servant, and gives them more. So there's a faithfulness deal that is important to God, not just fruitfulness.
That's right.
So it wasn't they just went and made it all. They were faithful with it, and God, So I don't know, he values faithfulness. I think even in seasons when you're not seeing the fruit that you are, God, there's a heart thing, there's a diligence thing, there's a heart that isn't fearing, there's a heart that's trusting, which is important. I don't know, if it's been, you are launching into business and actually you're being faithful and you're going for it and you feel like you're actually driving a lorry off a cliff, and you're taking your family and your house with you, there's room for community, isn't it? Just wiser people who can just help support you, finding ways to do that in community and small groups and stuff. So I don't know, if it is, there's just wisdom in business that is very important in the way that we do that, not to just do it alone and do it solo.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's as good an answer as any, isn't it? The faithfulness is what's honoured as, and it's easy to miss that. And I guess, I remember a friend of mine years ago going through a time in his life where he was feeling terribly unproductive, and it was actually a mixture of things. It was partly because his wife was really ill, and it meant that he was nowhere near as available to get a lot of things done that he would have dreamed of doing. And there are all kinds of setbacks in his life, and it just meant that he just couldn't achieve any of the dreams and stuff he'd been dreaming about. Like 2 or 3 years of this went through. It's like, I'm not being productive, and he had these kind of hopes and dreams, and his heart's cry was, why can't I be productive? And he actually spoke to a friend of his who was a real wise, mature kind of father figure to him, and the guy said to him, well, Jesus didn't talk just about being productive. He talked about being fruitful. And he said, I'm watching your life and all I'm seeing is fruit. And he said, you just need to be careful that you're not overly evaluating your life through what you would call productivity, or even what the world would call productivity. Could be a bit of a distraction, because what I'm seeing is spiritual fruit. There's no way you could be living the way you're laying your life down for your wife, the way you're loving people, serving people humbly. That's fruit. Brilliant. That's real fruit.
Brilliant.
And it's just a helpful example of getting.
One of the books that the both of us
right.
like is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, which again emphasizes not really just maximizing your time and effective in your efforts rather than
Efficient.
what's mistaking activity
Efficiency
for
effectiveness.
yeah.
You can be really efficient at a task. Actually, that's not effective at all.
No.
It doesn't have any impact. Yeah.
The other really interesting phrase I heard was, if you have a really hard task to do, give it to the laziest person you know, because they'll find the quickest way of doing it. Top tip right there.
Is that a Tim Ferriss thing?
No,
That's a Yohaan
me.
thing.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They will just find the quickest way to do it.
Johan, I've got a few things I need help with. Do you mind if we chat after these?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
That's not fair or true. Carry on.
One of the things that he touched upon was one of the reasons why the third servant buried his talent was because he had a wrong fear of God.
Yeah, yeah.
And then contrasting, there's a healthy fear of God, which
Yeah.
leads us to worship and to wonder. So if somebody's looking in for the first time and saying, I know a little bit about your God and he sounds scary
Yeah.
and awesome at the same time, what sort of relationship do I have with him so to cultivate a healthy fear of God rather than
Yeah.
a fear of God that buries stuff?
Yes, yeah. I think the fear of God is one of the most important subjects in the Bible, and it's one of the most wonderful subjects. It's fascinating and in the end inspiring and comforting, strangely enough, because the fear of God is almost a bit of a journey, which does start at the uncomfortable end of the spectrum, but as you go along in the journey, you don't lose forever that sense of the uncomfortableness. Because God is terrifying, but as time goes on, there is a kind of experience and knowledge of His love, care, fatherly grace that we get to know only through Jesus. We can't possibly know God rightly except through His Son. It's the only way we can know Him. But the remarkable thing is that as you get to know Him through Jesus and know Him for the comforting Father He is, the fear of God doesn't go. In fact, in some respects, it intensifies because the sense of wonder and awe is there, but in response not to the just the dangers or the fear of punishment, as the John says in his first letter in the New Testament. You know, the fear having to do with punishment. No, this is a fear that's to do with wonder and grace, but you still genuinely, it makes you awestruck. There's just so many examples in Scripture of this. When you read Scripture and think through how it refers to the fear of God, and there's lots of people through history who've really got to grips with this and taught on it well. Even like John Bunyan wrote a book called The Fear of God, where he teaches this. It's interesting, for example, that when Jacob in the book of Genesis meets God properly for the first time, you know the story where he goes to sleep in Bethel and there's this staircase and the angels going up and down and God makes these promises to him. And all the promises are just really, really positive. Everything about it is warm, encouraging. It's just fully positive. And Jacob gets up and it says he was greatly afraid. That's just one example. There's so many others, but it's striking that there's not a word of rebuke or warning or threat. It's all grace. But Jacob's natural response is he's terrified. He's frightened because it's God. It's God being gracious to me, and the grace is overwhelming. It's extraordinary, and it makes me tremble. You know, and I think for us to come to grips with the real God, ultimately must create a certain sense of trembling. Brilliant. Or frankly, I don't quite think it's the real God we're meeting with. Yeah. If our sense of God's grace makes us flippant and trivial, then I don't know if it's God's grace. I think it might be some worldly version of grace that we've not quite got from God.
Fantastic. We've got 5 more minutes, as our wonderful director has just told me. You've got a busy week coming up?
Yeah, I've got a few things. I'm actually away with my wife for a couple of days this week, which will be, without the children, it's going to be, we love our children, but we also love each other, so it'll be nice to be away.
It's just like, what, holiday break? Or
yeah, just a couple of days. So. Yeah, it was part of one of my Christmas present to Kate was actually let's go away for a couple of days.
Can we ask you where you're going, or is that telling us least we don't?
You can ask me.
And you'll say no?
Ask me. Go on, ask me.
Because you could say no.
No, ask me.
Where are you going?
Ask me.
Where are you going?
Ask me. I'm not telling you. So no, I could tell you. It's
Yes, you
but
could.
I won't. I really won't.
Because you could be
how I
publicising
answer
it.
this? You've got 5 minutes. So there's that, and then there's Sunday. Yeah, I'm in Greenwich with the Emmanuel Church Greenwich, which will be fantastic. So I'm speaking about sex. We're doing a series on sex. My topic is, I think it's called the God of Sex. So I think the poster is just a picture of me and my name, and then the title. The
And
God
then you're
of
going
Sex.
away for 2 days, okay?
Yeah,
Did
this
you
is
plan
after
that?
a couple
Yeah,
of
it's
days.
before.
So it's so that's my title in Greenwich. That's how I'm known, Joel Virgo, Sex God.
It's a great topic for a Christian sermon and
I'm going
sex.
to turn up with Tom Jones.
Right.
So there's
Right.
Sunday next week.
The God of Sex.
In where am I next week?
So where can we get the recording? Will it be on their website?
Yeah, I guess so. If you really want to find it.
We want to learn about the God of Sex.
Yeah.
Find
Oh
the
man,
podcast.
I'm trying to think what the next thing is, but there's a few things. The following Saturday, in fact, the following weekend is youth
Youth culture.
culture.
Yeah.
So that's in Saturday, and that's happening at the O2, the Indigo at the O2 in London. So we've done the Youth Work Conference over the years in Centre Parks, but this year we're doing it in the capital at the O2, and it's going to be just wonderful. You're leading worship?
Yes. Myself, Anna, Neil, and Shireen. Yeah.
Excellent.
looking forward to it.
So
we
who
got-
is the youth conference for?
It's for really anybody. I mean, it's historically been a thing that youth leaders and youth leadership teams have come to. But really, we're just saying anybody who wants to come and hear and think and pray about how we serve the emerging generation in our nation. And so that will certainly involve youth leaders, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of parents, teachers, leaders of all kinds. Just be there. It's going to be superb. I'm looking forward to it. I was kind of thinking, what am I going to talk about? I'm talking at it, and I'm going to do something from Proverbs about wisdom and about true wisdom and people in the culture and the time we live in. That's what's needed, and I want to just keep bringing that emphasis. So I can't wait to talk more about what that's going to be. And then I'm in Amsterdam
We
the
will
following
post a link
day.
to the youth culture in this description.
Yeah.
And then you're in Amsterdam.
Yeah, next day, in fact, with Matt and Joe at Liberty Church Amsterdam, with them for the whole day and spending some time with the leaders in the afternoon.
Wow.
So yeah, busy old time, but should be fun.
We love Amsterdam. I love Amsterdam.
Yeah.
We should do a live lunch in Amsterdam. Can we make that happen?
Okay. If
Can
anyone
you
wants
just
to-
sign off on the budget for us?
Hey, we could
travelling
just
to-
have a green screen of Amsterdam behind us. Hey, good to be here on the canals.
Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your week.